Monday, October 22nd, 2018. Tonight we're going to be having a discussion about the Denver Regional Council of Governments TIP, which is Transportation Improvement Program.
That's the first one we'll start out with, and then we have a discussion of the town's listserv to follow this. Alex?
Okay. Alex Arnall, Director of Public Works. Every 4 years, DRCOG solicits projects for federal funding. All of transportation federal funding that flows to the region goes through Denver Regional Council of Governments. And so they, every 4 years, call for projects, go through a rating and scoring methodology, and then full board votes on the projects to be selected for the coming TIP period. This TIP period will be a 4-year period. There'll be about $300 million that will be allocated. They've gone through a change in process. As a result, it used to be all the projects would get together to be scored, and the board would have 60 or 80 projects to figure out how to select those, and there was a lot of political things going on. So they changed the process to for the sub-regional projects to do it at the county level. So actually there's three pools of funds. There's set aside funds that about $50 million that goes to things like traffic signals, human services, TDM, funds, community solutions. So that's about a $50 million pot. Then they have the regional pot of funds, and that process we've been working on for the last 6 months. And Boulder County, the forum for Boulder County submitted 3 projects. 119 was one, 119 BRT, State Highway 7 BRT and preliminary engineering, and US 287, a study of safety and BRT feasibility. So those projects were submitted a couple weeks ago. Along with that was a request for that $6.3 million, $6.5 million of sub-regional funds that would flow to the Boulder County Forum would match those projects. So now we're starting up the sub-regional process. Again, we belong to 2 sub-regions, Boulder County sub-region, and because State Highway 128 is actually in Jefferson County, we belong to the Jefferson County sub-region. So that process will be starting in January with a call for projects. We're actually meeting this week with the sub-regional forum to start talking about the criteria that we use to select the county sub-regional projects. So in putting together a project application, there's a number of things that we need to do in terms of having cost estimates, having a good scope, having quantitative measures such as vehicle miles of travel, transit riders or bike riders. So we have to put all that stuff together. So it's going to take us a few months. So we wanted to get input from the board on which projects to apply for. So the purpose of tonight, I put together a list of about 5 projects. And I can go through the merits of each one, and I'd like at the end of this to select 2 or 3 to put our effort into applying. And then if the board has other projects, we're certainly open. We have some time to put up other projects together for those for that application. So the projects I've put together, and just again, we're talking about allocating about $16 million among the Boulder County partners, including the municipalities in Boulder County and Boulder County, as well as other entities could apply, like the University of Colorado or other entities for these projects. At the last go around, we got 3 projects totaling about $1.7 million of federal funds. This time, if just looking at population, if you took our population and divided by the county's population, we would get about 5% of $16 million, which would be about $750,000, $800,000 is what a fair share. Of course, it doesn't work that way. So we could be looking at anywhere between $1 and $3 million in terms of what we would apply for, and use our best not guess, but put our best effort forth in putting an application and then using our, not political will, but working with the other municipalities and county to get our project funded. So the first project, and I think Trustee Hansen actually asked that this put on the list, it was the Marshall Road underpass. As you recall, on US 36, there's an underpass of US 36, and to get across Marshall Road, right now is that you're at a high-speed location, so bikes or peds that come across there and want to get on the other side of Marshall Road, it's pretty hazardous. And the real grand plan here is that we have trail systems that go all the way to El Dorado Springs, go to Louisville and Lafayette and Erie, and the grand plan here is to have trail users go that entire way without crossing a road at grade. So we'd have off-road trails, and everywhere you cross the road, we have an underpass. So we were able to put that in place for US 36, but now we have to cross Marshall Road. So this would be a project that we would participate in. I mean, we hope that the county and Louisville would also participate, and I don't think we would participate unless they were willing to participate. I've been talking to the staff about this project to see if it's higher in their list and to gain support for it. We had Loris, a consultant, take a look at this, what the feasibility was, and we can get under Marshall Road. However, the alignment really kind of goes in a diagonal fashion, so it really benefits more Louisville Trail users. So if you're coming on US 36 Bikeway, you come across here, you have to go a little bit out of direction to get back on the south side of Marshall. So I just want to point that out. Any questions about that project? I think it's a good project. I don't think we should take the lead on it or pick up the full local share. I think the county and Louisville need to come to the table as well. Any questions about that?
Okay. Do we know if Louisville's interested in putting that project in for their share of the TIP proceeds?
I think it is. I think the big question here is really where it connects to and whether we can get the off-street trail going through the county open space. And that's what's really been holding up the project. So I think we need to do some negotiations with the county to get the parks people all together on alignment of where it goes through the county open space and how it serves our open space. So I don't think everybody supports this project, but we're not quite sure where it connects to the county trail system.
Should that be something that's figured out first before we make this submission?
So we're trying to work and get that together before we apply for this.
Alex, you may have said this. These are the order of which you're going to speak to these is not your order of preference.
No.
They're just as it appeared.
Yeah.
So would you, as you hit them, we have 19 minutes remaining.
Yeah.
Would you like us to address each one in terms of whether or not we're cold, warm, hot on it? How can we help you?
Yes. A yes or no that we keep going with this project. I'd like to drop out a few here. This one, I think we should keep going on it because it benefits three entities and they're all interested. It's just a matter of getting all the details together. So, and I'm not the only one that's going to be working on this. I'll have partners.
Yeah, so my perspective on this one, I mean, just looking at a map is really helpful because when you look at the population areas and who it can benefit, I'm obviously very into anything that's going to help pedestrians and cyclists, but the cyclist that's going to be there is the 1% cyclist. It's not the family with the children. So to me, I'm very lukewarm on this in terms of prioritization.
Okay.
But I'm glad it's here, but I'm lukewarm compared to some of the other projects.
Could I suggest a little bit of a different approach here? Could you maybe real quickly go through all of them and then
And come back.
have the board say what their number one priority is?
Sure.
And number two and number three, that kind of thing?
Okay.
And just for my, for clarification here, where it says the funding split, where it says the federal and then the local, so the federal would be the funds that are coming from the Dr. Cog proceeds, and then the local would be Town of Superior contribution for the project?
Right, so the local on here, I've suggested that the potential sponsors, the local share be split among those three sponsors. So that we have 300,000 local share. We would only be picking up at the max a third. We would try to get the other.
Okay, so it would be 100,000 for Superior.
Right.
Assuming that they agree.
Right. Next project is 88th. This is a project that's been budgeted. We've already budgeted here, but it does have some aspects of it that I think would score high. First, we're providing a multi-use trail on the east side of the roadway that serves pedestrians. It has a safer routes to school aspect of it. We're providing bike lanes on both sides. We have a safety issue at Shamrock where we have an accident problem. So I think from a safety and multimodal aspect, this would score high in terms of the sub-regional funding. It does, the match here, I've kind of overmatched just because we're also reconstructing the roadway. We also have a development or something that's going to occur to the east that would benefit. So I'm suggesting that we overmatch on this one, and that you also get more points if you overmatch. Next project is Campus Drive, which we've talked about in the past. The estimated cost is $15 million, and this is just, we did have a consultant develop a cost estimate for this. Some of these cost estimates are pretty high because they involve federal funds. That means we've got to abide by all their Davis-Bacon and all their regulations, and also it could be 2-3 years in advance, down the road where we have some inflationary costs as well. The funding split, I can't see using all of the sub-regional funds, so I've suggested that we go after $5 million. That's still pretty high chunk to get of the federal dollars. It would provide a two-lane bridge, construct a two-lane bridge over US 36, connecting the Vista campus and the downtown Superior development. It would provide another roadway crossing of US 36 between Louisville and Superior. It would provide a convenient connection for Louisville residents and employees desiring to use the commercial and recreational facilities in downtown Superior, as well as Superior residents and employees to access the Vista Hospital and the Monarch schools. So I think that's that. The next project is McCaslin Trail, and there's actually two segments here. One would be from about High Plains down to Colton Road. There's already a crusher fine trail on the east side. This would put concrete pavement on that trail. And the other segment that isn't built yet it's actually part of Parks' long-range project is to connect Indiana down to Calmonte with the trail along the west side. And as you recall, we had some discussions. There's a big drainage way there. That's why the cost was pretty high. I estimated at $2.5 million local share at $500,000. The last project I had was the extension of the US 36 bikeway. You know, right now we come from McCaslin and the Coal Creek Regional Trail up to the bikeway bridge over US 36 that goes to Louisville, and then the bikeway is on the Louisville side going down to Flatirons Crossing. This would extend the trail from that bridge down to 88th, go under 88th Street. That would be a usable segment where we can have connections on either side of 88th and provide connections for like Bell Flatirons and the other parts of the eastern south portion of Superior to get to the US 36 bikeway. We could also look at extending it further south to connect up to Flatirons Crossing. We do have some design challenges as you go by the Hodgson-Harrison Dam and through the townhome development down here. I think that would score well with the as an alternative mode project and also as an extension of the bikeway, serving the town center and other parts of Superior that aren't served now. Those are the 5 projects I had.
Okay, thank you. For me, number 5 jumps out as a favorite. I've tried to get on, or I have gotten on the bikeway from 88th Street, and it's just not very friendly from that access point. So I've thought that this connection would be a great addition to that 36 bikeway.
And this is one that I need to do some work because there's certain portions of it that have some design challenges. So I need to get some consultant help to get out there and help me formulate a plan that we can sell.
Okay. Follow up on that item. As Toll Brothers comes along, I mean, a good portion of this is adjacent to what they would be developing.
Yes, in
Is that
fact,
correct?
I met with Toll Brothers and CDOT this morning to talk about a sound wall that we're looking at and the trail and whether we can put the trail on CDOT property. So they would be participating. In fact, they could put up the local share. We do also have a commitment from the Lanterns to put up some funds for the project. So we could get local share from the development community and some of the federal funds to complete the project.
Okay, thanks.
With these sorts of applications, are we making a commitment to actually go through with these projects by applying for them? So if we get awarded the grant, do we need, and let's say the Campus Drive Bridge, do we need to construct the bridge if we're awarded this grant? Or do we have the option of, reallocating it, or do we forfeit the money?
We have to provide a letter to them saying that we can come up with a local match and that we're committed to doing the project.
Okay. Well, I think that's an important fact for us to consider because, the Campus Drive cost is $15 million. And I mean, personally, I'm not prepared right now. I don't even know how I feel about that bridge in general as to whether or not it actually makes sense. And I wouldn't feel comfortable here making a commitment that all of a sudden we're on the hook for $10 million to fund a bridge before we've had, a long dialogue about that project.
I think our chances of getting it are very low, given that, the numbers Alex gave us initially, our share would be less than $1 million based on our population. $1 to $3 million projects are kind of somewhat realistic. So I think it'd be much better time and effort spent going after something in that range instead of going after something way out of our range and probably not getting it.
So, Alex, how would you respond to that comment? Should we go after something a little more realistic or something that is expensive and strategic?
Well, we have competition from Boulder, Longmont, and Erie, Lafayette, Louisville. They all have projects that they want funded, and for us to get the lion's share of the sub-regional funds is pretty unrealistic. I mean, I think we should look at the $1 to $2 million range for the federal funds, and if we can get 1 or 2 projects in that area, it would be great.
Well, I'm an enthusiast about the possible Campus Drive connection as a strategic endeavor, but I can't disagree with what the mayor just said.
And the local match has to come, split between us and Louisville. And I've had discussions with their staff, and it's at the bottom of their list of projects. So
right.
It's unlikely that they would come up with their share.
Okay.
So I like the idea of, trying to increase, pedestrian safety and bikeways throughout the town. And I like the projects that are actually going to be, benefiting our residents directly. So, to Kevin's point earlier, in terms of who's going to use the Marshall underpass, that seems like something that's going to be helping people that are cutting across, the tail edge of Superior, but not necessarily our residents. I think the Campus Drive thing is just too expensive and uncertain. So personally, I would advocate going forward, narrowing this down to 3, which is, the 88th Street improvements, the McCaslin multi-use trail, and then the US 36 bikeway extension.
So I don't disagree with that. However, we've already got open space funds, right, for the McCaslin project?
Well, it's in the 5-year program. And it's programmed just like 88 is
Well,
programmed.
what I'm saying is if we already have a pot of funds for some of these things, maybe we might want to prioritize the ones we don't have the pot of funds for. And McCaslin, the blue one there, whatever number that is something that is a legitimate use of open space monies. And I believe the Open Space Advisory Committee has already said, I don't want to put words in their mouth, that is a priority of theirs. Ken, can you nod your head? Am I right?
It's top of the list for trail construction.
Okay. So if we've already got a pot of funds that could be used for it, then I probably wouldn't prioritize it for TIP funds. But I agree with the mayor on the 36 trail, and I actually do like the Davidson Mesa project. Have we assessed whether or not we can go over rather than under, and what that cost would be?
Yes, it's pretty difficult to go over because the Davidson Mesa underpass under US 36 is already down.
Right, it's down.
And
Okay,
to
yeah, I see.
go back up, it'd be pretty difficult.
With the open space funds, though, I mean, just because we have the funds available, I mean, obviously, if we don't spend it on the trails, that's leaving funds
Opportunity
available
cost, right.
for, potentially
Yeah.
making open space acquisitions. So, as the way I kind of size all this up is, where are we going to actually get the best chance of actually getting as much money from this pool, recognizing that we're not going to get it all, and it's, more going to be like that 5 to 10% range. So what is the most, what's the best case that we can make that, Dr. Cog would look at and say, yes, this is the sort of project that actually fits, checks all the boxes that we need to check.
Which one do you think?
I mean, I think the US 36 bikeway extension is probably, directly going to affect Superior, but also connects the region in a way that it's pretty hard to, argue with that being like the proper use of these funds.
If you've got projects that are already in the plan, so to speak, and funds that will be dedicated towards those, how does that play with a project like this bikeway where I don't think we've got any funds for that in the future? So, I mean, in the TIP process, are they more likely to say, well, you're going to get this one done anyway, why should we fund that one? Mm-hmm. Let's go fund another communities that doesn't have the project and they don't have the money for it?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure they know all the reasoning, whether we've already budgeted for those. And in our case, we have capital improvement programs, and all the entities have got capital improvement programs. And a lot of them may anticipate some federal funding.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to interject that I think, from my perspective, Campus Drive Bridge is always going to be a priority for me because I think we need a second source of access into downtown Superior. But at the same time, if it's unrealistic that we're going to get that money, I'd like to see us go for something that is more realistic. And from that standpoint, I really have to support the Marshall Road underpass at Davidson Mesa. This is a priority that's been on ProStack's radar for quite some time because of connections to the trail systems. I don't know where it is on OSAC. I'd have to, maybe Ken could, but I seem to remember that was something important to them because it connects into the trail system and gets a broader community than just the town of Superior. And so for me, that Marshall Road underpass is the kind of project they would want because it doesn't just affect us. Mm-hmm. It also affects Louisville and the region and being able to access trails. So, those would be the top two for me.
To Sandy's point, wouldn't we have a higher chance of success if it's multi-jurisdictional?
Yes, that's
So,
one of the criteria.
That's multi-jurisdictional, so,
And that's why I said that.
yeah.
That's why McCaslin along down here, it really just benefits the town of Superior. It's hard to justify other, multi-jurisdictions with the McCaslin Trail. The US
With what?
30, the US 36
I'm
Trail.
not hearing you, Alex, I'm having trouble.
The US 36 Trail, serves Broomfield and maybe some Louisville residents, whereas the McCaslin Trail doesn't have the multi-jurisdictional benefits that other projects have.
You think McCaslin has multi-jurisdiction?
No,
Okay. Okay, no, I don't think so either.
So Alex, my top three, I think the same as what Mark said, possibly in a different order. The 36 Bikeway extension, it's, when you're on 36 Bikeway or you're trying to get there, it can be very frustrating. It's a great ride for families. It's a great 36 Bikeway is a smashing success. We are a hole there, particularly when we're adding 1,400 residents downtown. Another few hundred will be coming near Flatiron, near the mall. Having that connection that doesn't add another, I think it's about 1.5 mile and a quarter, makes just perfect sense. So that would be my first priority. 88th, we probably spent more time as a board talking about 88th than almost any other topic over the last 2 years. So anything we could do to get funding to solve the 88th problem is a priority for me. And then McCaslin multi-use, and agree if it's, one more pool of money, one more available pot of money, that's great. I'd be fine deprioritizing now the Marshall Road underpass. I think there's other, I know it looks great. I just don't hear a lot of feedback from the community, and I know it's been on ProStack and OSAC, and I know it's been on the list for a while, but I've never heard nobody's ever approached me and said, you know what we need? We need to solve for the underpass there. It's a good idea, but it's just not a top priority. And similarly, as much as I'd love the Campus Drive extension, it's going to be hard to convince the other communities that we're fighting for that we should build a bridge to a downtown that does not yet exist, and that should be their priority as well. So, my three. Thanks.
I agree with your order, just for the record.
Okay.
One last thing on Campus Drive Bridge. Several of us have prioritized it. I heard Kevin, Sandy, and me. So if in fact that is workable under this TIP scenario as it evolves, would you bring it back to the then sitting board to revisit that? In other words, don't count it out if in fact it gets some traction, possibly as TIP projects are discussed, because, right? So.
Cindy, your order.
Huh?
Your order is?
Well, my order is Campus Drive. If it becomes doable
Okay.
for further discussions, then I agree the red line, the 36 bikeway extension, then Marshall Road. 88th is definitely a priority, but we've got Zaharias developer, we've got CIP funds for that as well. So I'm not clear, and we're sort of out of time as to how that plays in with possible TIP money.
And by the way, 88th, if we got federal funds, we'd have to delay that project, at least a year. We couldn't do it in 2019.
Right.
It would have to wait till 2020.
Okay. Okay, so I think the direction is most of us are good with number 5 being the number 1 priority, the US 36 bikeway extension, and then 88th Street, but I just heard about 88th Street, you delay it a year. I don't know that the board really has an appetite for that, so that I don't know if that kind of bumps it out of consideration. And then the other bikeway, the McCaslin bikeway.
I didn't, McCaslin or Marshall Mesa? I said Marshall Mesa. What did you say, Sandy?
She did too, but
And
myself, Kevin, and Mark are more on board with the McCaslin Bikeway over that one.
Even though that can be done with open space funds. Okay.
And it's not a regional it's
And
not a regional project, so I think the likelihood of it getting selected is probably.
Right, you know, can I suggest on Marshall Underpass is that if Boulder County and Louisville wants to take the lead on that, prepare the application, and they want participation from us, I think that's, you know, it's only $50,000 to $100,000 on our part. I don't think we should be taking the lead. I think someone else should be taking the lead. And if they get the federal funding, yeah, it's going to benefit us, so we should put in a portion of the local match. But it's not something we should put any effort into at this point.
And I'm fine with that. Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense where we could be a nice partner to Boulder County and/or Louisville. I think we should just prioritize 36 and go for that one, because that one seems like that would be a transformative project that would be really beneficial for the town and for the region.
Yes, agreed. Okay.
That's what I need to hear, because I need to put some work on that and getting it scoped out. So.
Okay. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right.
Thanks, Mayor. Next, we'll move on to the CAC listserv email options. Martin.
Thank you. Martin Toth, town staff. It's the next item on the work session agenda tonight is on the CAC listserv email service that we've had, provided by the town for 18 years this month. It's been provided through a third-party vendor as a communication tools for citizens to post emails to subscribers of the service. In the cover memo, it lists 479 current subscribers. As of a little while ago, it was 481, and with a flurry of CAC email activity over the last few days, there's been several people jump off and probably a similar amount jump back on. It costs about $1,300 a year. This work session agenda item was scheduled following some board discussion at a recent retreat with direction from staff to come back after researching some alternatives. What we focused on specifically was finding out whether or not there was an option to modernize this service with the type of citizen-to-citizen communication and whether there's a low-cost or no-cost alternative that would allow citizens to post graphics and other features that are now considered really typical for email services that aren't available through using the CAC listserv. So even though the listserv has been around for a long time and it has served its purpose well, the board was interested in finding out whether or not there were some newer options for the board to consider. And Emily Clapper, a newest staff member in our department, has had a chance to go over a couple of the options. She'll go over those with you now. And then Matt and I will be available for questions. We both served as admin for the CAC in various capacities over the last couple of decades. So with that, I'll turn it over to Emily.
Hi, Emily Clapper, town staff. So the first option that I took a look at was Google Groups. So one of the pros for Google Groups is it does not require an account to read the posts. However, it does require a Google account, not necessarily a Gmail, but a Google account to submit a post. You can link another email address to a Google account, and you can post images and attachments in Google Groups. The next one that I looked at was Yahoo Groups. So Yahoo Groups was interesting because it was a hybrid between an email list and a threaded internet forum. So users can select if they want to view it on the web page directly or if they want to reply via email. A Yahoo account is necessary to post, and similar to Google, it does require an account, but not necessarily an email, and you can link a different email address to Yahoo. So both Google and Yahoo have settings where you can have private membership, or it can be open to the public. So folks can request membership from a moderator on both of those as well, on Yahoo and Google. And as I was looking through Google Groups and Yahoo Groups, and from personal experience, I found that they often are used by smaller organizations, like work groups, among coworkers, students using them for projects to collaborate, for parents, for school groups and sports teams. I did not find any municipality that used them to communicate with their full cities or full towns. And then there are links also on the bottom if you want to see how they're set up. And last but not least, I wanted to throw Reddit into the mix. And all three of these options are free to use, by the way. So Reddit, for folks who aren't familiar with it, they have about 50 million unique users per day. And they have subtopics or like subreddits dedicated to anything from people who love German Shepherd dogs to different cities to world news. Just you name it, there's probably a subreddit for it. If there's not, people can create them. It's very easy. And it's very transparent too. With Reddit, you can choose to make public or private groups. I've been able to look at all of the websites listed here, Loveland and Greeley. So I should point out that these subreddits are not necessarily moderated by the municipalities. More often than not, they're private citizens that are really passionate about where they live, and they love to share information with folks. Right now, most of these sites have information on ballot measures and candidates, but they also have conversations going on about food or FAQs or, hey, I'm moving to this area, can you recommend a place to live? Another cool thing about Reddit is it has upvotes and downvotes. So if somebody submits something that people really find useful or funny, they can upvote it. If it's something that's not useful or hurtful, it'll be downvoted. So that doesn't mean it gets deleted, it just moves to the bottom of the page, and then the stuff with most upvotes will move to the top. Let's see. I also included some screenshots of what the Boulder subreddit looks like. So they have over 23,000 members. I know Denver has close to 79,000 members on their subreddit. I think Greeley has a few hundred. Some communities use it more than others. It's very widely used throughout the nation. And then another one I used was Longmont, and they're pretty active on there too. And I can open up some of those websites if you'd like to take a look or not. So, any questions?
First, thank you. Cool. Probably sort of maybe a fun project for you. I imagine Google is taking our data and doing something with it. Maybe I'm a little paranoid, put on my tinfoil hat, right? And I imagine Yahoo is the same. My impression, and I don't know, is that Reddit is not necessarily using consumer data for, again, I don't want to say against us, but they're not, there's no desire, there's no Reddit corporate that's going to monetize our data.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. That's my understanding.
Is there, so we use some Google groups at home, and I'm confident that maybe, be careful with this question, that the content that my children are going to have access to is appropriate for them. And I'm a little trusting of some moderators at Google and Yahoo that the content will be directed appropriately. So I think you know where I'm going here. Is there a risk of inappropriate content on Reddit?
Yes, it's really for all ages. It really runs the gamut. So you can, use settings, like protective settings on Reddit, but with 1.2 million subreddits, I mean, it's all kinds of content on there.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sure we'll have some other questions, but thank you.
So I think it's great, and thank you. I'll echo Kevin there. I think the CAC has served its purpose, but it's, we don't have the outreach and the usage really that I think we really need to make it as useful as it really can be. 470 users in a town full of 14,000 people. We're not hitting the usage percentage. I mean, I think we should keep it. It's still a valuable resource, but I think we need to move into the 21st century and start trying things out. I like Reddit. I use Reddit. I think Reddit is really helpful. Back when I lived in Denver, I was a subscriber to the Denver subreddit, and it's not moderated by the government, and it's just moderated by the community itself. I think that we should try it out. I think we should create one, and then let it kind of take its shape. I think it would be really helpful, because one of the frustrating things I think with what we have now is really an inability to adequately search, and archive useful information. There's a lot of useful content that's created on the CAC. Brian just created a really helpful thread just this past weekend. But 6 months from now, good luck trying to find it. It's just going to be buried in your inbox. Whereas with Reddit or the Google group or a Yahoo group, we'd be able to actually adequately archive things, search them, find them again. So personally, my feeling is I think we should create a Google group and a subreddit and see what the community takes. If one of them takes, if both of them take, I think that's great. But the most important thing is that we publicize these things, and we need to have really significant outreach so we can get the buy-in from the community that people actually start using it. So I think we should just be nimble and experiment here and see what works.
Just to clarify, your desire is to do this in parallel with an experiment, keep the CAC for a period of time. Let's just make up a year. Keep this, it sounds like today is our anniversary. Keep the CAC for a year and run a couple of experiments.
Yeah, the CAC costs us $1,000 a year, and for the people who use the CAC, it's valuable. And I think that over time, if a Google group or a subreddit replaces it and the CAC it kind of atrophies and people just stop using it, then we can reconsider. But I'm not in support of quashing any form of communication that our residents use.
Agree.
I agree with that. I think it's good to look at new alternatives. I think just having platforms that you can put pictures and links and things that can add to the message that's where we are. This is 18-year-old technology, and it's adequate if you just want to have a text discussion, but so often people need to communicate. Lost pet, here's what it looks like. That, things as basic as that need pictures and or links to things, and so I think we've evolved, but agree. Let's not just rip the rotary dial phone off the wall yet. Let's leave it there and see if people evolve to using other things. Others?
I'm fine with it. I would hate to see us close out the CAC because there's definitely a group of people who use it. But hopefully as we move forward with these, it will become redundant and people won't see the need for it. So I kind of like the idea of giving it a shot for a year. I'm not a huge fan of the Yahoo group, so I was glad that you say Google, and I don't know Reddit at all. So I can't really comment on that. It seems like it's workable, so I'm not opposed to it. Would have been interesting if we'd had this discussion 2 weeks from now when we could have some feedback from some of our new board members, because we definitely have some folks out who seem to be very, very well versed in other media. So, but if we're going to try both, seems like a reasonable experiment to me. I'm not opposed.
Well, Sandy, to that point, I'm not in any rush to do something tonight, so I think it makes perfect sense to wait till a new board is seated, get their input, and then make a decision, because we're not on a, I don't feel like we're on a time-sensitive crunch to do something here.
What do you guys, I mean, because maybe they have those guys are all over social media and stuff, so they might have
I agree.
They might have a good perspective, and
Yes.
rather than us diluting the effort, we might be able to focus it.
That's my only opinion on the matter. Is it seemed a little odd to me that this was on this agenda, not the first agenda.
Yes.
With the new folks, because they are a lot more with it than I am. So I actually defer.
No, I think.
I don't think there's much harm, though. I mean, I don't disagree that it's appropriate to see what the new board thinks, but it's not like we're going to be investing tens of thousands of dollars in creating a subreddit or a Google group. It's very, so I would just say, I mean, we should have them anyway.
Right, I
And
agree.
if people take to them, they take to them. If they don't, they don't. But I don't really foresee a significantly different discussion once we have the new board. I mean, I think it's great to talk about it with them, but I think that they're going to be on board with, yeah, let's try something out. Let's try a new subreddit. Let's try a new Google group.
And I do think we are making a decision. That decision is, let's keep the CAC for a period of time. Let's renew it. And so I think there may have been some concern that we were going to shut it down. And no, let's not shut it down. Let's keep it. Let's renew. I don't even, curious who we write a check for $1,200 to. I mean, it would be like, are we I'm sure there's somebody who's still paying for their AOL account, and then there's us. But let's keep the CAC for a period of time, and I don't see why you couldn't launch a subreddit, and I agree, let's see what it takes. I mean,
My only observation is I probably wouldn't do a subreddit and a Google group at the same time. I'm part of a Google group. I find it a little bit annoying in that it's just a steady stream. If it has searchability on it, I haven't found it. I think you can do it by topic, but I've heard good things about Reddit. I don't know it myself, so keep CAC and start Reddit and see if it catches fire, and if it does, you've probably got your solution. But new board will know a lot more than I know.
One of the things that I think we should have a conversation, and frankly I think Kendra should be here for that conversation. There's been in the news, I think a Thornton City Council person, there's a Facebook, official Facebook page for a Thornton City Council person who had deleted comments, and now there's a lawsuit that's been filed about people infringing First Amendment free speech rights. So I think we need to come up with appropriate protocol, whether this is going to be moderated or if it's going to be completely just the Wild West out here and people can do whatever they want, and whether we're going to permit people to be anonymous on it, use handles or use their real name. This is just a discussion that we should have, because one of the complaints that we've seen with the CAC is some people use their real names, some people have not. Some people don't use their full names, and just sometimes can devolve into internet trolling. And if this is going to be something that is officially sanctioned by the town, I think we need to just be careful that we're respecting the First Amendment rights of the residents and the community, but also just have the discussion as to whether or not we're going to allow anonymous users, if anybody can join it, or they need to be a resident. We just need to have that conversation. And I don't know what the right answer is, but it's just something that we need to figure out before
Right.
we make a mistake in terms of the community that we're trying to foster.
Well, with Reddit, though, my understanding from what I heard is that there's no monitoring from the town. That's not even possible if you wanted to. Is that correct?
You can create a private subreddit where you actually join.
You can create a private one, and you can moderate. Generally
Okay.
speaking, Reddit is very hands-off, and unless someone feels physically threatened, Reddit will not usually jump in, so it's really falling onto the moderator.
Got it. And that's a point about the CAC, is it's not, even though the town pays for it, there's no monitoring, there's no editing, there's nothing. And I think that's maybe not known to everyone.
But there is a
could be
gatekeeping
concern.
function insofar as the town needs to let you into it, right? And then once you're in, then you
Right.
can send whatever email you want to send. You know, with Reddit, you could, if it's just a public Reddit, anybody in the world could just join that Reddit and start posting away. And I don't necessarily, you have to go look it out, and I don't know if somebody, you know, in Australia is going to really want to pay attention to the Town of Superior subreddit, but it's just a factor to think about.
Okay. Okay, good information. Thank you. Any other discussion on that, on this topic? Okay, anything else for the work session? All right, we will stop early, and we'll be back at 7 o'clock for the regular meeting. Thanks.